Hey Geert, we're here at the Super Booth in another beautiful room, private studio. This one is pentaphonic.
It's wonderful.
Plenty of speakers, and very excited to be here because we're taking a look at something really special, right?
Yeah. We're taking here a look at a new app that Moog is releasing pretty soon. So this is a beta version, and we're taking the opportunity to show you what we're trying to achieve with this app. So yeah, this is a Model 15 modular synth on the iPad and on the iPhone, going all the way from an iPad Touch to an iPad Pro. And you get a very intimate experience with the Model 15. We leveraged a lot of the gestures of the iOS devices to be able to allow you to move around quickly. And it's got a few interesting features, like, for example, it is polyphonic, so you can play very easily 4 Model 15s at the same time.
Wow, okay. Yeah. So that's ambitious for a start. I mean, I imagine that's quite a challenge because there's a lot of interface to Model 15 in the flesh, right?
Yes. We took a long time on the audio engine, and one of the things we realized to be able to get the sound out of there was that we needed to leverage as much as possible of the CPU of the iOS device. And at the same time, we also wanted to give a very immersive experience so that you can zoom in on one particular knob and really dial in the sound that you want, zoom back out again instantly, and move around the instruments very fluidly. So in order to do that, we adopted a new technology from Apple called Metal that allows us to get as much power from the CPU as possible and get this wonderful sound engine going.
It does look really beautiful, actually. It's very detailed, and this is running on, what's that, an iPad Air 2?
This is an iPad Air 2, yeah. It also runs on, this is the iPhone 6 Plus. It gives you all the same resolution, and you can play it in different orientations. Get rid of the keyboard if you want to.
In portrait mode, it really almost it emulates the shape of the cabinet, right?
It does. So if you hold it up in portrait mode and you zoom out entirely, you get the full Model 15 cabinet in here. And we added an extension cabinet at the bottom with a lot of interesting features for iOS users. So it's got an audio bridge that allows you to use Interrupt audio and audio bus connections towards any other app on your iOS device. We also have fixed MIDI CC connections here in case you want to hook up certain gear that you always want to use together with the app. But everything on the app, all the knobs, all the switchers are also MIDI CC learnable. And we've got a very nice ping pong stereo delay and a number of additional utility modules that we re-envisioned to make the Model 15 even more capable. For example, this reversible attenuator goes up to audio ranges so that you can use it as a ring modulator, for instance.
Oh, nice. I mean, I'm guessing using the metal, am I right in thinking the metal technology allows you to offload some of that stuff to the GPU, so you're not taxing the main processor?
Yeah, so all the graphics are shipped off to the GPU as quickly as possible. We do as little graphical calculations on the main CPU so that all the audio is running full rate. It is heavily oversampled internally, actually, to get that beautiful sound out of it.
So I know with Animoog it was very important to make it a playable entity rather than just something you run on your iOS. Is that the kind of thing that you've been going for here?
Right. So one of the things we realize is when you work with a modular, you have two axes towards playing with your instrument. You both want to play the knobs and you want to play the keys or the playing surface. So in order to do that easily, we give you quick access to the keyboards at the top. And so we built in a traditional keyboard here, but also an Animoog keyboard. And and you can very easily swipe them away and swipe the last one back in. So if you want to make a change, you can go in, you can make the change, bring the keyboard back, and then start playing. You can also collapse the keyboards in order to just work with the notes and not get as much playing surface, but still get a lot of screen estate for manipulating the sounds.
So my question also is, I mean, patching in modular iOS apps when you're using patch cores is a bit of, it's a bit cumbersome. How have you tackled that? Because that's a bit of a holy grail, I think.
It is a holy grail, and we've thought a lot about this because we wanted to get the same experience or very close experience as a regular modular. And what you typically do is you take your patch cord and you just want to plug it in. You're not gonna, as you would expect on an iOS device, take your cable and drag it around. So one of the ways we solve that is you can double tap a jack and then freely move around, and it already plugs in one end of the jack. And you can freely move around, go to where you want. You can see also what the possible connections are, so it helps you. I double tapped on an input, it is going to show me what the outputs are and how I can connect to these. And then I can double tap on the output and it makes that connection very easily, very fast. If you want to, you can also pick it up and drag it around if you prefer that, and still with a second hand move around the modular. Some people like this, but the double tap way of doing things makes it very quick and easy, as with a real modular.
Did I see something about color there as well?
Yeah, so by default, when you start wiring a cable, we pick a color for you at random, just as if you would have a bunch of cables lying around and you're going to pick the next one that's there that just happens to be there. If you want to change your color, you go to a color wheel here and it's going to pick the color that you want, and then you can make your connection. Now you can also hold it down and change the connection of an existing wire the same way.
So those people who are very, shall we say, particular about the color cables that they have for routings, they can
you can color code.
They can obsess all they like.
Exactly. Yeah. If you want to use certain color for certain signals, you can make it completely your own. If you enjoy the graphical nature of having a random color palette that is created by the randomness of cables that are lying around, then this will also do that.
So, I mean, one of the big things is obviously going to be the filter and the amplifiers and the mixer and stuff. I mean, have you tackled the kind of drive and the distortion aspects? That sounds like something would have been quite challenging, I'd imagine.
Yes. So we just went through this modular recreation with the real modular. So we analyzed the specs from back in the day, and we really looked at all the specifics of the schematics and how they interact on each other to create the app here, and all those characteristics that you talk about are present in the Model 15 app. So let's see if I take bass here. So the filter sounds wonderful. It's got all the characteristics of the Model 15. It overdrives when you drive it hotter. It gets that little bit of distortion in there. The same thing for the VCAs. If you drive it hotter, it's gonna have that distortion characteristics. But yeah.
So sequencer, I'm guessing, because that's a big part of any Moog modular system.
Yeah. So we were thinking about recreating the 960 sequencer, but then we thought it would be interesting to think a bit further about this, and so we created an arpeggiator that has the 960 look, but that goes together with what you play on the keys. So you've got an 8-step arpeggiator that you can customize by setting the pattern length, for example, to 4. Then you can, let's say that I put in an arpeggio here. This is maybe not. Let's dial this down. Okay. So I'm going to turn on the arpeggiator. You can see it step through the steps. I can latch it to hold it down. Now I can turn certain steps on or off. I can tweak the pitches of the individual steps.
Is that quantized to pitch, or can you get really kind of out there if you want as well?
So the pitches are quantized, yes. because on a screen like this, getting in between individual pitches is not easy to get exactly what you want. There are some ways around it. We also, the Arpeggiator allows you to, for each step, set velocity offsets, and these are completely fluid. So if you would take the velocity offsets here and go to the controller outputs here, and you get velocity coming out from these jacks, and you could use these for as any CV signal and connect it to pitch if you want to. One other thing that is interesting, I think, and we just saw actually the artifact, so that since you've got these cables going all over the place, as with a regular modular, they will obviously obscure certain parts of the interface, but we still wanted to provide this beautiful look of the authentic Model 15, modular cables from back in the day. But on iOS, you can double tap with 2 fingers and they become transparent.
I noticed you've also got the trigger outputs there on those particularly awkward cables.
Yes.
Do you have cables for those too, or are they
They're
cosmetic?
separate cables, so you can see them being wired like this, and they're clearly identified as those trigger cables.
But those ones don't break and don't need fixing.
They don't break. We did think about an additional feature that we added here is, the real Model 15 expert will notice that this CP15 panel has been slightly modified. Because we work within a digital domain here and people expect mod wheels, velocity, aftertouch. So we modify the controller outputs to match up with what you would expect from a MIDI keyboard. In the same way, we added a polyphonic switch here, and we added the switches that you can see on the larger modulars, like the System 35 and System 55, where you can connect the controller outputs to the oscillators and to the envelopes in the back by just flipping the switch without having to connect a cable, which is very convenient.
So you mentioned polyphony. You get up to 4?
Four. Yeah, 4.
And they're clones of each other, so
yes.
you wouldn't necessarily be able to modify each voice to be slightly different. That would be just part of the right.
Yeah. So each knob setting, each wire is automatically done on all 4 Model 15s that are running in here. That's correct.
And I'm guessing, and I hope actually that it's not going to run on everything. It needs the CPU to be.
Yeah. To be able to get this kind of sound quality and graphical immersion, we had to choose to go for 64-bit iOS devices. We're also the ones that support Metal. So that is where the cutoff point is. But we also wanted to make this app very inclusive because when we talk to customers, we notice that a lot of people have a desire to get educated about the modular synthesizers, to freely explore this in their own time, wherever they are. So it goes from the iPod Touch all the way up to the iPad Pro in all orientations. As a universal app. So you buy it once and you can use it on all your iOS devices.
I'm guessing latest iOS, right?
Yes. So one of the things we did have to do, we worked closely with Apple to improve iOS for this kind of particular audio use. So since it's a modular, it's always running. The sound is always going on. There is no dynamic voice allocation. You've got constant 4 Model 15s that are making sound, if you hear it or not. Yeah. And that particular use case sometimes started crackling in older iOS versions. So Apple was very good to work with us together on this. And in iOS 9.3, which is the minimum required iOS version, it works beautifully.
And you mentioned the educational aspect of it, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be a fairly big positive to this. Is there any kind of other enhancements that will make that better?
Yes. So first of all, every patch that you see here, you can swipe to the left and share it. Very easily share it over email, messages, copy it to your Dropbox, whatever iOS supports. At the same time, we built in a tutorial system, and we are shipping a few tutorials ourselves. What happens when you start a tutorial system is that you will go through a series of steps that show you around the modular, and it highlights specific areas to teach you what corresponds to that individual step. And so as you step through it, it will guide you, and it was this little indicator showing that something's going on to that side. And these can be created by anyone.
Right, so you can create custom educational patches.
Yes. So these patches are regular patches that you can very easily create yourself. There's a manual about how to do that, and it's extremely intuitive to do, to create them. And in terms of education, I think this is a huge thing, because anyone that comes up with a very neat sound can walk anyone else through how to create it.
Nice. So, as we say, we're seeing this as a preview.
Yeah.
Hope by the time you see this, it'll obviously be in the app stores, right? So, do you have any idea of when that might be? I suppose the day that people see this video, I guess. Have you fixed a price? Is it going to be upper price, lower price? Do you know what kind of roughly it's going to be? Or?
We're still evaluating what the best price is going to be for this app.
Well, it sounds like a really exciting thing. And are you able to use it fine with external MIDI control and external audio interfaces?
So one thing that might be worth noting, we've got the Animo keyboard that is extremely expressive when you play it.
That's like it's got poly control, right? So
it's got your poly aftertouch. Let's see if I can.
I know that's something that you're very keen on.
Yeah. So by moving up and down, you can express your, whatever the sound allows you to do. You can space them out, like on the standard Animo keyboard, get in between the pitches. And at the same time, over MIDI, with the Roly, Linstrument, all those expressive controllers, you can get at that too. So it supports.
It will talk to them.
Yes,
right.
it supports that kind of input also. One thing that's nice to show maybe also is that we've got full MIDI control, so you can map every CC to whatever you want.
Oh wow!
And it also
MIDI of patch cable, MIDI controller patch cables. That would be too much. Not yet.
Not yet. We've considered it. But
I'd like to see the interface that you would have to design for that. Yeah.
One thing worth noting is that they're all optionally 14-bit.
Right.
So if you really want to get into that fine details of getting your sound through an external controller, it's totally possible.
I imagine on an iPad Pro this would absolutely rock.
It's amazing because if you hold it like this and you see the modular in front of you, it feels like you're sitting in front of the real thing.
Very nice, Geert. It must be very exciting actually. So I'm very pleased that you're involved in this because I know you're a major exponent of expressive electronic instruments as well. So.
Yep. So I think that this instrument is just like Animoog, bringing the expressiveness of the iPad and iOS devices out in a very, very intimate way, both with the playing surfaces, with the knobs, and how you can move around it. So you can really get lost into this instrument.
Thank you very much.